Welcome back to Player Performance College Football Preview. This is the Group of Six show. I am Gunz Picks, joined by Coach Rick. This is the last preview before we start talking about weekly football. It's coming up on Saturday, Coach. Are you excited? Because I'm excited.
It's like Christmas.
It's
I mean,
Christmas.
it's like I said, we did the very first preview. We woke up with a one day here in Michigan on a Monday, and it was, all the high schools are back in camp, and it's like it's Christmas. It's college football season. It's here. The NFL's here too. That'll start soon after. But I mean, this is the greatest time of year. It's what we live for. It's what I live for. I mean, my entire working career has revolved really around the game of football and sports in general, but really around the game of football. We'll talk about a group of six team where I've got multiple players that I've come across impacted in some way, shape, or form that are playing on one of the better group of six teams in the country. So this will be fun. Looking forward to talking about group of six, and I'm really looking forward to Saturday when the season starts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's coming right around the corner. I've already written up the games. We can't call it week 0 anymore. We were trying to figure out
Week
a good
one.
name for it.
Yeah.
It's all week
One,
1. It's
one,
all
yeah, week
incorporated now.
one, and the following Saturday's week one, and there's no week 0. I know everybody has out there is calling it week 0. It's not week 0. It's a long story, and I could explain it, but I'm not going to take the time. Look it up, do some research. There's no week 0. Just trust me.
It was such even if I know it's not week 0 and you can't really have a 0, but calling it week 0 just was a good name. It's like
Yeah,
it's the appetizer before
it,
the main
it,
course
it
kind of thing, right?
differentiated it. Yeah, it set it apart from the rest. Yeah.
So if you guys aren't familiar, I know you may be new to college football. You may not understand what the group of 6 is. These are the smaller conferences. We're not talking about the SEC, the Big 10, the ACC, the Big 12. We're talking about the smaller conferences. These are the conferences like Conference USA. We can even get into the independents if you want to get into that. But really, essentially, the group of 6 is Conference USA, Pac-12, ACC, Mountain West, MAC, and Sunbelt. The Pac-12 just restarted, so it used to be the group of 5. Now it's the group of 6. Pac-12 used to be a power conference. Now it's a small conference with basically a lot of defectors from the Mountain West. We'll
Yes.
get into some of those teams in this preview. We're not going to waste any time. Without further ado, let's get into the first team we're going to be talking about, and it wouldn't be us if we didn't talk about service academies. That's right. We're going to be starting this off with Navy. The Navy midshipmen, great season last year, great quarterback, but the quarterback is gone. It seems like they might have themselves a better option at quarterback this year. A lot of hope and a lot of promise, and this team, Navy, looks real good. Coach, talk about the Navy midship.
Oh God, I could talk about Navy all day. Navy, Air Force, Army. I mean, these schools playing in the FBS are really probably the truest version of a student athlete, because most of these guys aren't going. Well, where they're going after they're done playing college football is in uniform to serve our country. Wherever the military takes them. So hats off to them. Navy was outstanding last year. 11-2, I believe, won the conference title game. Blake Horvath, outstanding, counted for well over 5,000 yards in the 2 seasons that he was the starting quarterback. Just a dynamic dual threat kid, smart, heady, made great plays, great decisions. And then the 2 running backs, which I got to bring them up because they're both from Pennsylvania, and probably people don't remember, but Alex Teska and Eli Heidenreich played football like in youth league together all the way through middle school, all the way through high school at Mount Lebanon High School outside of Pittsburgh. And then they played at Navy together, and then they were both signed as free agents by the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll find out whether or not they make the final cuts, but They were both outstanding, both great running backs. They lose all three of those guys, and it happens every year at Navy. There's a lot of turnover, but it's not like other schools where we're going to bring in a bunch of transfers and we got guys transferring out, and so a lot of these guys have been in the program. They roll over and they come back, and it's kind of the case here. 10, call it 10, 12 starters. There's 4 definite starters on offense. They're all offensive linemen. And you've heard me talk about that before. When you're good up front, especially in this offense, if you know anything about, the service academies, they typically run offenses that, help make them successful. And they're usually based around the triple option. In this case, Navy, Brian Newberry, the head coach, a couple years ago, hired a guy named Drew Cronick, who was a former high school guy and bounced around the college level. We'll actually talk about him a little bit later too. There's an interesting connection to Drew Cronick with one of the other teams that I'll talk about. But Drew Cronick runs basically a wing T type offense. He calls it a hybrid wing T. They institute a lot of the elements of the triple option. They'll run from the shotgun, under center. You'll see jet sweeps. You'll see weird formations. It's very, very hard to defend. And that's why Navy led the country in rushing last year, almost 300 yards a game on the ground. When you do that, you eat up clock. You set yourself up for success in the passing game. When you have a great QB like Blake Horvath, you're able to do some things there play action-wise and throw down the field. Now, Horvath is gone, so who do we plug in? Well, this kid is a better athlete than Blake Horvath, not as experienced, but you saw him a couple times last year. Especially what was the one game they played? It was VMI, which it's an FCS school that's not very good. But Blake Horvath went off in the first and second quarter, and they brought in Braxton Woodson, who will be the starter this year. Braxton Woodson ripped off 2 TD runs. One was like 74, I think the other was 68. He had almost 200 yards rushing, and I mean the kid's a stud. He's big, 6'3", weighs about 220. 4.4 and a 40. The guy, he's a legitimate sprinter. In this type of offense, I mean, look out, because again, defending the option, number one, is hard enough. Defending an option team that also incorporates, the wing T. Like I think I've said it before on our shows during the season. If I ever was a head coach again at the high school level, I would run an offense similar to Navy, just because it's so hard to defend. So I don't know that they miss too much. They've got one of the running backs comes back that saw a lot of time last year, and then with the 4 guys up front, I just feel like it's set for them to have success. Put it that way. Defensively, again, 4 to 5 starters. Depending on how you define starter, right? The biggest loss is he played nose. He's a defensive tackle. Usually played one technique. Was Landon Robinson. Not a lot of Navy guys end up in the NFL, but he's probably going to make the 53-man roster for the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, he was good, damn good. So they'll miss him. But the kid that played behind him, I mean, you could plug him in. He might be better than Robinson by the time he's a senior. Xavier Arrington will replace him. I think he's a team captain, actually. So you got both linebackers back. Defensively, I get that's probably the thing that will determine how good they really are, because they did have some issues defensively. But the offense was able to, when you score 35 points a game and you run for 300 yards, not a lot of teams can keep up with that, especially when, Navy controls the ball for so long. So really, I mean, again, I think they're going to be a similar type team where the offense is going to be really, really good. The defense could be. We'll see how they develop throughout the season. Schedule-wise, it's set up for Navy to get right back to where they were last year. So, the obviously there's the commander-in-chief deal where they're going to play Air Force the first Saturday in October. And then, of course, they'll close the season with the, second Saturday in December with Army. And then sandwiched in between there, probably the one game that, is on Gunz's mind is a visit to Foxborough and Gillette Stadium, where they're going to take on Notre Dame. So and that's always an interesting game. Some years, it's just a blowout. Notre Dame's usually much more talented, and then every now and then Navy just kind of, they just give them something to think about, and every now and then they stay in that game. So that'll be an interesting one. In the American Athletic Conference schedule, though, I think it's built for a Navy run. The test is Memphis. We'll see how Charlie Huff does in his first year, but he's done well everywhere else that he's gone. So I know it's his third team in 3 years, but he's won everywhere. So they'll play Memphis, but they do get them at home. It's in November. And then the other favorite in the conference, it's Navy and UTSA really are two favorites to win this thing. They'll play at UTSA on October 17th. That'll be the big one. They don't play East Carolina. They don't play USF. They don't play Tulane, who are three teams that, could, do something this year anyway. So I like Navy to go over their win total. It's 8.5. I know it's up there, but you figure they won 11 games last year. It probably should be in that 8.5 to 9.5 range. It is juiced. The juice is on the under. You get plus money at over 8.5. I like it. Am I going to bet it? I'll think about it. But the bet that I really like, and it could end up being the best bet here for this show, is just Navy to make the AAC championship game again at plus 185.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this schedule that they got right now. I mean, they got a lot of tough road games. I would say that. I mean, that Air Force is not going to be a slouch. Air Force. We'll be talking about them in a second. At UTSA it rarely loses at home. It's a very tough place to play, even though Navy runs a pseudo like triple option that is very difficult to stop. It's gonna really come down to the success of their season is going to come down to their offense. They're going to have to put up 30 plus a game. Their defense is, I mean, they bring back their top three tacklers from last year, and they're definitely a senior unit. A lot of juniors and seniors that we're seeing here, like on the roster. However, the one thing that was a catalyst for them last year, even though they were 11-2, when they played those high octane offenses like in North Texas and Notre Dame, that they and the defense could make stops against them. They kind of struggled in those situations to get back in the game. Everybody says that Navy plays slow and methodical as you take unders. Navy was not an under team last year. Let's face it. Blake Horvath could throw, and this kid. I'm looking at the numbers with the new kid there, Braxton Woodson. Woodson could throw too, and if he's running like he was running in the games that he did play on this one, he averaged over 9 yards per carry. He's going to average more per carry than Blake Horvath did.
Oh yeah.
And you say, oh, they got to replace the backfield with the running backs, and those guys are seniors, they're men, and I think they're going to do all right in those situations. But like I see, like a couple tough games: UTSA, Notre Dame, Memphis, Army is always a tough game. That's always a battle at the end of the year, and depending on if they make the championship game, they win the conference. It's always a weird pseudo loss that could happen on that last game because they have to play the next week after the conference championships, which is kind of weird on that one. But we shall see. I'm high on Navy. I think I think that offense is going to carry them a long way in those situations. So we'll look for this high octane offense with Navy. Speaking of the service academies, we kind of alluded to it. We're going to be talking about Air Force, or at least I'm going to be talking about Air Force. I think they're worth talking about. This team was 4-8 last year. All right. Troy Calhoun comes back for a whopping 20th season, and he's off back-to-back losing seasons. So you think, they're falling off a cliff. Time to change the coach on this one. I mean, if you look at Air Force right now and you look at this roster, they bring back their top two rushers from last year, including Sartska, Liam Sartska, who had over 1,200 rushing yards last season. The problem with Air Force last year was not their offense. Their defense had major issues. It just couldn't stop anybody. So it come down. I'll talk about their outcomes of their games in a second. It was never their offense because they would put up points. It was their defense. So what they do, they got a new DC from UAB. They're changing the defense around, probably changing the culture a little bit. So maybe this defense gets a little bit better. And they get 8 returning starters on the defensive side, including their top 4 tacklers back. So let's see what happens here if the defense goes up. I do believe anything that and what happened last year, it's got to get better, right? They face a softer schedule. If you look at their schedule, they face a 121st toughest schedule in the country. And then you got to look at Air Force. They had 4 games where they lost by a possession or less, and 3 of those losses were by 3 points. That's what I'm telling you. As bad as that defense was last year, they were in games. It came down to the last possession, or they just ran out of time, period. And some team scores at the last second, and of course, Air Force needs 5 minutes to run down the field, maybe 4, unless they get a big run. So if it comes down to airing it out, you're not going to get that from Air Force. But last, I will say this: let's look at the patterns of what happened in Air Force. Troy Calhoun, he's been there for 20 years. You can see his patterns; it's pretty apparent. Last time Air Force had back-to-back losing seasons was 2017 and 2018. Guess what they did in 2019? They went 11-2. This is a team that is going to flip around and be better. They're bringing back a lot of veterans from last year. They lost a lot of close games that I don't think they're going to lose because they're facing this softer schedule. Mind you, a lot of these teams that were in the Mountain West left. They're in the Pac-12 now. They're not going to have to face them anymore. The Boise's, UNLV's still there. But there's guys that are in the Pac-12 right now they're not going to have to see, so it makes their schedule softer, and it kind of opens things up for Air Force. I'm not saying we're taking them to win the conference. Let's pump the brakes. But I think this team can win at least 8 games, and you can get them at an over at 7.5 wins, and you get it plus 120. Let's take it. I think this Air Force team is going to give a lot of people problems. I think they're going to win more games than they lose, other than what happened last year. They're on the come up. And I really like the quarterback there, too. So let's take this Air Force team and run it to the rafters. Let's go. Hopefully the defense improves. That's going to be the key on that one. Make it stop or 2. And then they'll be in these games, and they'll turn losses to wins. All right, let's go into the next team we're going to be talking about here. We're going to be talking about the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky. Man, this used to be one of my favorite teams to take for overs. The team was just absolutely electric for years, and they had a little bit of a drop off. And now, Coach, tell me about the Hilltoppers and why we need to talk about it.
Well, you mentioned the overs. I think last year, probably the first 6, 7, 8 weeks of the season, I think we took, or we were, me or you or both, or so, we were on Air Force overs. Just because they would score and they couldn't stop anybody, and 60, 70 points in those games, and and that's typical of Western Kentucky. Tyson Helton. It's amazing that he's still the head coach here. He probably could have left and moved on, but 7 years there, he's 57-36, and the one thing you can count on when Tyson Helton's your head coach is we're going to run the air raid. And we're going to throw the damn ball until you stop it. But he's also smart enough, kind of like Mike Leach was back in the day. If you're going to let him run it, like, he's going to turn around and hand it off. And, every now and then, you're going to see 1,000-yard rushers at Western Kentucky. But this year, Liberty's the favorite. I think we'll talk about Liberty in a minute too. But Liberty's a favorite in Conference USA. But Western Kentucky's right there. They'll get 3 starters back on offense, and I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but Western Kentucky is one of those programs where Tyson Helton gets a lot of good dudes, develops them, and when they're good enough, a lot of those guys are transferring out to Power 4 schools. So he's losing a couple dudes, but he's also bringing some in through the transfer portal. But the biggest thing that he has is his quarterback back, and it's Rodney Tisdale, who. It was probably mid-season. He took over, became the QB, ends up throwing for a little over 1,400 yards, 9 touchdowns. He's got 8 or 9 games of experience under his belt running the air raid like Tyson Helton wants him to. So I think he'll be fine there. He's got one starting receiver back, KD Hutchinson, who is solid, nothing special, nothing flashy, but he's a senior. He's experienced, caught 66 balls last year. So that'll be his go-to receiver, I'm sure. The other skill positions are all transfers. And then he's got one offensive line starter. So that's kind of the thing, how's the offensive line going to do and how they're going to be early in the season. If they come together, I feel like this is an offense that can do good things because they've got it. Like I always say, if you got a couple of O-line starters and the returning quarterback, you usually have the potential to be really good. So we'll see what that offensive line can do. Defensively, it's interesting. Usually a lot of air raid teams, a lot of teams that score 37, 38, 40 points a game. A lot of those teams don't play great defense. There's tons of them. And their head coaches are offensive minded and, they don't think about defense and, it comes to bite them in the ass every now and then, but then they get smart like Eric Morris and hire a really good defensive coordinator. And, but anyway, Tyson Helton, he'll bring back only two defensive starters, but they're both the two safeties that he had, and they're both really good. But believe it or not, it's a defense that it actually ended up second in the conference in scoring defense, 22.8 points a game. And, you might look at that and think, well, geez, they gave up 23 points, but in Conference USA, where not a lot of teams play a lot of defense, giving up 22.8 is actually pretty good. And here's the kicker. Western Kentucky had the number one red zone defense in all of FBS last year. So if you want to be good defensively, like they gave up over 400 yards a game, I think it was 400.8, but 400 yards a game, that's a lot, but it's only 23 points. And you know what? When teams got inside the red zone, they only gave up touchdowns about 35% of the time. And if you can do that, like you have the opportunity to win games. So defensively, if they can fill some gaps, are they going to be that good again? Probably not. But the problem for Western Kentucky is the schedule. So if you're looking at their win total, I don't even think I'd consider it just because they start early, September 12th. How about a trip to Georgia? Then, after you get your ass handed to you by one of the best teams in the country, how about another trip the following Saturday, September 17th, to Indiana? Okay. So back-to-back weeks, they're going to play two of the best teams in the country. And they're not winning either one of those games. So, it's going to be tough to put together, an 8-win season, which, their win totals at 7.5, and it is juiced to go under, which, maybe take a look at that. But there are some sure wins. They're going to play, one of my favorites, Mercyhurst. Which, if you don't know Mercyhurst is in Erie, Pennsylvania. It, used to be a Division II school. They were actually in the league with, the school that I played at, and they moved up to FCS. So they're going to play Western Kentucky is going to play Mercyhurst. Should be a gimme. And then they start the conference schedule on October 1st. And really, other than Liberty, Western Kentucky has a good shot to. I think make it to the Conference USA championship game, and you can bet them to get to that game at plus 155. And I think Liberty and Western Kentucky are the favorites to make that championship game.
Yeah, you mentioned that schedule right off the bat. I mean,
It's
they
brutal.
start off on 4 out of their first 5 games are on the road. I mean,
Yeah,
they go from Nevada to Georgia to Indiana, then they get their first home game on the 26th.
That's the
They play
Mercyhurst.
Mercyhurst,
Yeah.
and then they have to go back on the road to go play New Mexico State, and then it's and then it's quite a
That's
gauntlet
brutal.
because they don't get a bye week till October 24th of all times. I mean, they have
Wow.
to go 7 games in a row before they
7
even
weeks.
get to lick their wounds.
Yep,
And
7
then they
weeks in
go
a row.
through Yep,
Wow.
and then they go through that gauntlet. I mean, it's gonna be a tough road, and there's a lot of teams that have that pound of flesh in them. They won a lot of close games last year. They
Yep.
did lose 2 games that really close. LSU, they only lost by 3 points. That was a weird pseudo, 23-point game. It was really sloppy and ugly, but, injuries really piled up, and I think, Brian Kelly
That
was
happens.
fired by then.
Yeah.
Um
Yep.
So it's going to be a tough road ahead. We'll see what happens with the Hilltoppers, but yeah, the Hilltoppers are always. I mean, Conference USA has always been very weak. Last year, they weren't even the rep. I mean, usually you see Western Kentucky in the conference championship.
Yep,
You didn't see them last year,
they weren't.
but we'll see what happens. I think there was a lot of teams in this conference that you expected them to be great, and they faltered. Speaking of one of those teams, actually, no, I'll talk about
No,
them
go
later.
ahead.
But actually, you know what? Let's
A good
talk
one,
about one of those teams that
a good one.
really stepped up, and it's the
Turned it
Kennesaw State
around.
Owls.
Yep.
This is a team that I talked about last year, and I said, this coach, Jerry Mack, he's not a kid,
Very much.
he's an older guy,
Yep.
but you go check his resume. He has Signetti vibes. He wins. Google him.
Google them. Yep.
And he came in year one, brought in a slew of talent, brought him to 10-4.
Yeah.
I believe they won the conference too. Worst to first. This is a team that won two games in 2024.
One or two.
And
Yeah.
they
were
won
bad.
10 last year.
Yeah. It was
So
their first year. Yeah.
yeah, Kennesaw State of all places, one of the worst teams in college football, turned them absolutely around. However, things are looking pretty dim with Kennesaw State because when you have a great team and you don't have a lot of money, you kind of lose your players.
Guys
That's
jump.
kind of what happened. They got stripped a little bit with head coach Jerry Mack does come back for his second season. He did not take another job. He should have. I don't know with that one, but I would have said, "Oh shit, I won 10 games at Kennesaw State. Anyone want to hire me? I win. Google me. Anybody?
I gotta get
They
out of
didn't do
here.
that. Turned the team around. This year they lose their starting quarterback, top 9 rushers, top 4 receivers from last year, only returning 2 offensive starters altogether. This team is lacking starting experience, ranked 76th in the country in experience and 6th in the conference. They're lacking guys that have taken snaps in college football this year. Very different from the team from 2025. And like I said, Kent State won 10 games despite only a plus 1 point differential, plus 9 point differential in conference play, and they average -2 net yards. You don't really see that with a 10-win team. You kind of see some dominance here and there. This team was playing some nail biters, but I was making so much money on Kennesaw State. I don't complain. Kennesaw State won 4 out of their last 5 games to end the regular season by a possession or less. 4 out of their last 5. They won by a possession or less. Every single one came down to the wire. Their schedule has a road game at Tennessee, multiple conference games that the teams remember, and they want their pound of flesh. And I think there's a lot of opportunities that we can take advantage of this Kennesaw State team. I think the value of them will plummet very quickly once we start seeing how bad they're going to be. I did think it was kind of alarming seeing them as a 6.5 wins as the barometer, and you
Ooh.
can get plus. I think you can get plus money on their under on 6.5 wins. This team on paper, to me,
Oh wow.
does not look like a bowl team, even though they face one of the weaker schedules in Conference USA compared to the rest of their opponents in the conference. 114th. They start the season off at Georgia with Western Georgia, a little appetizer before they get into real play. Georgia State, then they play at Tennessee, at Arkansas State, and then they get right into the nitty gritty of conference play. And they do get some bigger opponents in the ladder at home for that matter. They do have to face Western Kentucky at the end of the year too. I don't know. This team does not look like a 6-win team compared to losing that much production on the offensive side, basically going with a lot of young kids, a lot of they might be young talent. Who knows? I know Jerry Mack knows how to coach better than anybody in the conference, and he's shown that by his resume. However, I don't know if this team really screams another 10-win season and win the conference. This team might be taking a step back. And if you can get them under 6.5 wins, by God, just try to take it. And we'll see what happens. Somebody's got to drop in this conference, and I think it should be Kennesaw State after a crazy year from worst to first for these Owls. Let's talk about some teams you may know because I don't know a lot about Kennesaw State. But let's talk about the Blue Turf, Boise, Idaho, the Broncos moving over to the Pac-12, and probably along with Navy, I would say the potential contenders to get into the college football playoff, if they can get through their gauntlet and dominate their teams and go out there and show that they belong in you got to take one of the group of 5 teams. I know there was like, oh, I'm sorry, group of 6 now. They took 2 last year. They got to take one this year, I believe. We'll see what happens with that one. But Boise State, new to the Pac-12. What are your thoughts? The Broncos.
Just give him the trophy. I mean, just hand it to him now. It's
Yeah.
teams will, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of teams jumping conferences, but I understand the day and age that we're in, and Boise's damn good enough to really do whatever they want. So they moved to the Pac-12, and really, I mean, the Pac-12, like you mentioned it before, it's kind of pieced together with some duct tape and Mountain West teams, and throw in who like Washington State, that's like falling apart. It's not a great conference, number one, but Boise's the best team in it, and I mean, start with the offense, where they got 7 or 8 starters back. And again, like I always say, you got offensive linemen coming back. Okay, check. You got your quarterback coming back. Yeah, he's going to be a 3rd-year starter. Check. You got a stud tight end. Yeah, we got 6'5", 250, Matt Wagner. Yeah, he's good. You got 2 running, not only 1 running back, but 2 and they combined for almost 2,000 yards last year. Dylan Riley and Sire Gaines. So, I mean, this is a program that's solid. It's a program that's has tons of history and a solid history of winning since really back when they were a Division I AA school. So I would expect that they just tear through the schedule. Defensively, 4 or 5 starters back, 2 stud edge rusher types. And the one kid, it's a hyphenated name. I don't know. But anyway, both those guys come back, but they really need to get after the quarterback. 2 years ago, they were really good up front.
We're talking about Jaden Virgin Morgan.
That's it. Yeah, it's the hyphenated name. Yeah,
the law firm.
The law firm of Jaden Virgin Morgan.
Yeah.
But he's a stud. And then there's 2 years ago they had 55 sacks, but last year for some reason they didn't get after the quarterback a lot, and they only had 25, 27 sacks, something like that. So they need to focus on that. What's really going to help is your guy coming from Notre Dame. Jaden Mickey, he'll play nickel. I mean, he's probably a corner really, but in their scheme, he's going to play the nickel, which, he's about 190 pounds, 6 feet. I mean, he's big enough to play that. So he's on the Thorpe Award preseason watch list. So you got him added to the, 4 or 5 starters that were already coming back. So they'll be fine defensively. Schedule-wise, they're going to open up at Oregon, which is going to be very difficult. But it's a rivalry game that they've played before, that they've won before too. So after that, I mean, take your pick. Gee, let's see. Memphis. Wow. South Dakota. Let's play an FCS school. Let's go to Kalamazoo and play at Western Michigan. That's fun. I mean, who's going to beat them? And it's interesting. If you don't know, the Pac-12 will implement what they call a flex schedule. So there's only 8 teams in the Pac-12, which, go figure, right? Pac-12, 8 teams. 8 teams, so that means you only have 7 conference games. So they schedule 7 weeks of conference games, and then the very last week of the season, they're calling a flex week. So everybody has another game against an opponent in the conference, somebody that they already played, but the conference reserves the right to change those games the week before. So, it depends on it'll depend on, playoff scenarios and stuff like that. They want to make sure that they schedule games in the best interest of the conference. So if you see something that says flex, by the last game in a Pac-12 schedule, that's what they're talking about. And then that final game actually doesn't count in the conference standings. So just keep that in mind. But it will count for win totals, which I think Boise State can get over their win total. I'd take them to win the conference. Definitely, they are actually minus 190 to make the conference championship game, and then they're the favorite at plus 140 to win the conference. I'd take it now because that number is only going to get worse.
Yeah, you mentioned Jaden Mickey coming over from Notre Dame, spent 3 years there. You said, "How could you
Yeah.
let a Thorpe candidate go?" I was like, "Well," it's like, "Do you know how many corners
They
that
got
Notre
ton-
Dame has?"
they got tons of dudes, man. The kid,
Leonard Moore, Christian Gray, they're
if
in
he
the
stayed
same
at Notre Dame, he wouldn't
category.
play. He wouldn't
No,
play.
no,
Yeah. And
they just continue
he's a good player. He just wouldn't play.
tremendous.
There's guys that are better than him.
He didn't get the snaps. Now he comes here, he's gonna be the star. So, I mean,
Mhm.
it's a good
Yeah.
spot for him, and I think it's a spot where you can actually get your draft status up, and, he's a
Oh, yeah.
senior. I think this is his last year of eligibility, so,
Yeah.
getting him up there. But, yeah, this Boise's I mean, everybody and their uncle is gonna pick Boise to win this conference, and it shows I mean, there's
You
validity
you
to it,
should. Yeah.
because I just think there is a big drop off as far as the talent pool is concerned. You mentioned this conference, in my mind, was created because Washington State and Oregon State could not find a home,
Right.
and
They
the
needed some
Pac-12
buddies.
they needed some buddies, and they lured some of these Mountain
Yep.
West play teams to come over, and well, I'll be talking about another team in this conference that I find very interesting coming over to this. But I don't know if this is going to last. I don't know how it's going to work. The Pac-12 disbanded once. I'm not saying it couldn't do it again, but we'll see. We'll see
Uh,
what happens with this
yeah.
one. But it seems like the Mountain West and the Pac-12 are fighting, and I don't know what is going on with that one. These defactors coming over, but when you take Boise and you take Fresno State, and you take San Diego State, something's in the water over there. So maybe
Mhm.
Mountain West may be disbanded. We'll see what happens with that one. All right, the next team that we want to talk about here, and actually before we talk about the next team, we just talked about 5 teams in the G5, the G6. I keep calling it the G5. Gotta call it the G6.
That's
Pac-12
6.
still exists. So make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the J.A. Cavalier channel, because guess what? College football is back. College football will be talked about week after week after week by these two gentlemen that you see before you. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you drop a few comments as well if you're liking the picks. If you're not liking the picks, maybe even mention the team that we haven't even talked about today. You can get in the description below, and make sure you get to our telegrams to see what the deals we got going on. We have college football, NFL combo deals right now on our Telegram. Go down the description below, click the link, and you are in. All right, let's go into the next game. Next team we're going to be talking about here, and this is a team that is changing conferences. We're talking about the changing of hands, changing of conferences. It is Louisiana Tech. Now, this team was in Conference USA, seems like forever. They weren't like the biggest and the best and the brightest. They weren't like dominating the conference, but somehow they graduated Conference USA and they moved up to the Sunbelt. 8-5 last year, 5-3 in conference. Sonny Cumbie does come back for a 5th season, running the team. They do bring back 9 returning starters, 2 veteran QBs, but lose their running back core, which is a big part of the offense last year, was running the football. So that is a concern. As on the defensive side of the ball, they do return 4 starters, lose 5 out of their top 6 tacklers. This team just doesn't seem like they're prepared or ready to go this season as they were last year, even though they were 8-5, which in my mind, you do that in Conference USA, that's kind of mediocre in my book. Louisiana Tech will face a lot tougher schedule than they did in Conference USA, moving up to the Sun Belt. They face a tougher non-conference schedule than they did last year. We're talking about they are going to face LSU with Lane Kiffin at the helm, so it's a very different LSU dynamic. They have to go against Baylor and Army. I mean, those teams can do some damage as well before getting into their new conference in the Sun Belt. I mean, this is a stronger competition that they're going to have to deal with here. Last season, they were +8 turnovers. That's why a lot of their success were. They were ball hungry. They got to the ball. But it's very different dynamic when you're jumping into a new conference. You're either going to kind of surprise people because you've got a veteran unit and you're kind of strong in your opposing in your old conference, and then you move up. I just don't get this move at all. It may be beneficial down the road for them, but in year one in this conference, as strong as the Sun Belt has been, and there's a lot of good teams in there, and James Madison, even though they lost a few coaches, James Madison's still good. And I think this team is not even going to be bowl eligible. I think when they get into conference play, especially last year, they took advantage of a lot of a softer non-conference schedule and took a couple wins that way. This year, they're playing some stronger teams, and if they come out of it 0-4, or 1-3, or whatever they are, I think this is a bad move. And then you get into conference play. I don't think this Louisiana Tech Bulldogs team is going to flourish early. So I say they're not going to be a bowl team. I take under 5.5 wins. You get a plus 125 right now. I don't see them being a bowl team. That's what I say about that. You have any thoughts about the Bulldogs, or can we keep it moving?
How about an alumnus is Terry Bradshaw?
There you go.
That's about it. Or how about Sonny Cumby? Dude, if you don't win, you're probably fired.
Yeah, I mean, has
You
to
know,
be at this time. He
Yeah,
just plays
it's
lame
sad
duck
to say
football.
because he's a great coach, good offensive mind, but you got to win or you're out. So
Yeah, it may. Yeah, especially moving into a new conference, new changes. You may just have to kind of flip everything around. I mean, look at this conference; it's loaded. I mean, James Madison, Old Dominion is going to be
Old
good.
Dominion's good.
So,
Troy
App
might be the
State,
best team in that conference.
yeah,
Troy.
and
I
no
mean,
one's
they're
talking about them
damn
either.
good.
Yeah,
Yep.
because you got a split and Louisiana. They may not be the best team in the conference from Louisiana. I mean,
Oh
we
no,
got
no,
Louisiana Lafayette.
they might
That
be a
that
little
team
bit
might be
better than Ullum.
yeah. Yeah, I don't expect big things from
Ullum.
Hot Tech
Yeah.
in that conference. So we'll keep it moving along. And this is a team that Coach and I talked about backstage. And I said I was going to put this on my paper, and I was like, I wish I did. But guess what? We get to talk about them anyways. It is North Dakota State, the Bison, finally graduating from the FCS after pure dominance for years, with some upsets under their belt from the FBS. Now we got them up at the FBS level, and they come out of the gate to play Jacksonville State in week 1. I'll put it in quotes. Coach, tell me about the Bison.
Well, I wanted to talk about North Dakota State because I have some history with North Dakota State, and you mentioned their dominance of FCS. So the school has 18 national championships. 13 of those came at the FCS level, but I don't know if anyone really remembers or knows that they have 5 Division II national championships, and the very last one of those came in 1990 when I was a young assistant football coach at IUP, and we lost to North Dakota State in the last time they won the Division II national title. And a few years later, they moved up to 1AA, or what we call FCS, and continued their dominance. It's a program that is rich in tradition. I mean, go to a game there. Like a couple years back, remember when ESPN did game day from there? It is nuts. So that same year we lost to them in the national title game, we actually played them at Fargo in the first game of the season. And you want to talk about, I mean, that is a crazy ass college football town. Just psycho. And now they play in a dome, of course. We played it when I went, it was outside, but rich in tradition. Obviously, this is a school that they don't care that they're moved up to FBS. It's football, and it's North Dakota State. And what do we do at North Dakota State? Well, we win. So offensively, they'll return 3 starters. One of them happens to be the quarterback, and he's pretty good. He's a senior, dual threat kid. Nathan Hayes is his name. Big. He can run. He can throw it. Solid running back comes back. He, it wasn't a starter, but saw a lot of action. Averaged over 7 yards a carry. DJ Scott. Got a big tight end. Three starters. Actually, the QB wasn't a returning starter, but the 3 starters they do have back are all offensive linemen. If you know anything about North Dakota State football, they have humongous big dudes that just simply get after it. So if you're familiar with football and some of the running schemes, Power is a play that is a downhill. We're coming after you. We're gonna down block, kick somebody out, pull a guy, and we're gonna get like 6 million pounds of beef, and we're gonna run you over. And North Dakota State has run A gap power for I don't know how long, and they just continually beat and beat and beat people, and they wear them down with a just an outstanding running game, and they'll run the power until you stop it. But the offense is dynamic enough and multiple enough. I mean, you're going to see a little bit of everything. You're going to see the shotgun. You're going to see them run zone read, and you'll see them run jet sweep, and some air raid concepts. And they really cater to the players that they have, which most of the players they have are pretty damn good.
Mhm.
The other thing that North Dakota State has always done is play really, really good defense. They get 5 starters back. Their defense from last year. If you didn't know, last year they went 12-1. They won 12 straight games. They lost, I think, in the second round or maybe the first round of the FCS playoffs. They actually went unbeaten in the Missouri Valley Conference, but they were so good. Their best defensive player was a linebacker who will most likely start at the University of Michigan this year. So I mean, these are kids that really, I mean, they can play anywhere. So if you think, oh well, they're going to have a tough time. Well, not so fast. They do have, I think, is Donovan Woolen is an all-conference linebacker who's back. They got both safeties, both have a ton of experience. I think they were both starters last year. So I would expect their defense is going to be solid. It's built to stop the run. They're built to run the ball in offense. Add it all up, and typically it equals success. And it's equaled success for North Dakota State ever since I can remember, and that's a long time. The schedule, I think, is favorable. Gunz mentioned it. They're going to open up with Jacksonville State, which another solid program that used to be an FCS school not long ago and has moved up to FBS. They'll play Fordham, which if you don't know Fordham's an FCS school located in the Bronx in New York City. And then what is it? I think they're at Air Force, and then they do have. I think the toughest game on the schedule is going to be the one. The team that's favored to win the Mountain West is UNLV, and they will play at UNLV, but it's not until October 10th, so they're going to have 5-6 games under their belt, and you're going to see, hey, this is a quality football team going up against another quality football team, and we'll find out really how good they are. I guess, two games that may give them some trouble could be the two that are at New Mexico and at Hawaii, because those two teams are considered, top 2 or 3 favorites in the conference. I expect Notre Dame, North Dakota. I see the ND, and but I expect North Dakota State to do what they do, and that's win. They and if you don't believe it, look, their win total's 8.5. 8.5. So their FCS team moving up to FBS, their total's 8.5, and it's juiced to the over, like minus 140 to minus 150. I saw. So I think it's a signal that no one's going to go to sleep on North Dakota State. Again, the bet I like more than the win total is to see them in the conference championship game at plus 120.
Yeah, 126 toughest schedule in the country, which is
Yeah,
crazy when you're out in the West.
and this is a quality. This is an FCS. They're an FCS team last year, and they could have beaten. If they played this schedule last year, they could have gone 12-0 or 12-1.
Yeah,
or
this
whatever.
this is a powerful group of 5 team that
Oh,
we're
yeah.
going to see in the future. This is
Yeah.
similar to when JMU made that jump, and
Yeah.
no one really saw them coming. But people are seeing them coming this year. This is a very different. I think they're the 3rd favorite to win the conference. If you go look at the Mountain West standings on that one, but I mean,
Yes.
yeah, they're going to be a tough out, especially when you play them in North Dakota State. That place is loud. It's I believe it's in a dome, if I'm not mistaken.
Fargo
Over
Dome. Yep.
Fargo Dome. So
Oh, it's nuts.
And nobody in that area has anything to do but to go watch the Bison play football.
And that's why they're so good. They've been
Yeah,
so good for years. People would always ask, "Well, why are they so good?" Even North Dakota and South Dakota State. Why are those Dakota schools so good? Well, there's nothing there. There's
right.
nowhere else to go. If you're not a Big Ten player, if you're not on the Big Ten radar, where do you go? You're not going to go to Minnesota. You're not going to Wisconsin. I'll go to North Dakota State. Go win championships, and that's why a lot of those schools are so good.
Yeah, and these coaches get poached too. Matt Entz is
Oh,
at
big time.
Fresno State right now, and
Yep.
Fresno State
Yep.
is a powerhouse team now
Mhm.
because he runs that power football that you
Yep.
ran over at North Dakota State. You beat him with defense, and you pound the football, you pound
Yep.
the rock, run it, and that's what North Dakota State do. It's going to be very interesting to see them jump up to. Usually, you jump up to the Conference USA, or you jump to the Sunbelt, maybe, but like jumping up to the Mountain West
Yeah,
is a
straight to the
crazy move.
Mountain West.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is a testament to how good you are as a program to make that jump. So Mountain West is going to be interested with North Dakota State, and I'm sure this team is going to end up on my card a few times. I
Oh,
have
yeah.
to put them on there.
Guaranteed. Guaranteed.
All right,
Yeah.
let's talk about another team. Actually, I want to go back to the Pac-12 here. We need to talk about a team that may have a shot to go beat Boise. I listen. I
Yeah,
looked.
yeah.
You can say what you want about Fresno State. You can say what you want about San Diego State. Like, don't ignore the fact that there is this sneaky little team, Texas State Bobcats, with
Love
G.J. Kinney
love the head coach. Yep, GJ.
that we're completely ignoring here. Yes. And they're under the radar for a reason because they were 7-6 last season, 3-5 in conference, didn't have the best year, but they're bringing back a lot of talent, including who I consider possibly the best athlete in the conference in Brad Jackson.
Brad Jackson.
You look at his numbers last year, he almost had 1,000 yards rushing as the quarterback. He threw for almost 3,300 passing yards. He had two receivers that got over 1,000 receiving yards last year. Those guys are back. They're bringing back a slew of talent on the offensive side of the ball. This team is going to score. This team is going to put up points. The question is, how good the defense is going to be. That's going to be the risk on this one. But I see a lot of value. There's 7 returning starters come back for the offense, 4 on the defensive side. They're not going to be one of those teams that are going to be flashy and go to the transfer portal and get guys. No, they're going to work with what they got. But that offense is going to be absolutely electric. I think they have the best quarterback in the conference in Brad Jackson. You can say what you want about Madsen, but this kid going up in the step up in class, I can't wait to see what he does against who I would consider better defenses. And what I like about this team too is this team is a de facto Mountain West teams. These are all teams that know each other, play each other. It's
Yep.
the same old thing, the same old coaches. And then you got this guy, G.J. Kinney, making the jump, coming over from the Sunbelt into this conference in the Pac-12, and nobody knows about it. I think this team can make a splash. Nobody, and and you can get them at 7-1 right now to win the conference. It's worth
Ooh,
taking a flyer on them
yeah.
because we can take minus money for Boise and let your money rot for months. Well,
Yeah.
let's take a shot here. Let's take a team with a great offense that could come out here, and who knows what could happen with the defense. There could be improvements on the defensive side of the ball. They do face the 78th toughest schedule in the country. They do have to play Texas at Texas. They have to go on the road to San Diego State, Boise. They have to play Boise on the blue turf. That's going to be tough. I'll say that. But they get Oregon State on the road, Colorado State on the road. That's and actually they get the gift of all gifts. They got to play Colorado State
Colorado
twice.
State.
They
Yeah.
got to it's some pseudo schedule thing, but they got to play them early in the season,
It's
and
that
then they got
flex
to go on
thing.
the road. Yeah, the
It's
flex
that
thing,
it's that
right?
flex thing. Yep.
So that's great because those are opportunities we can take advantage of as far as like these teams have already played each other. Here's what the line was. Here's
Yep.
what the line is now. And it's at the end of the year. And who knows where Texas Tech's mentality will be. They could be
Yeah.
vying to get into the championship the next week. Who knows?
Yep.
But I kind of like their I mean they got to play UTSA too. There's probably going to be 4 million points scored in that one. And so on September
As there always is.
12th. So
Yep.
that's going to be fun to watch. They got North Texas, and North Texas has got a lot of turnover in this one, but I think you can take a shot here and taking them over on their wins at the very least, I think is viable. So I like over 6.5 wins, and I say take a flyer at 7-1. I think that's the best value team in that conference. You're not going to. I mean, everybody's going to be taking the top three, which is San Diego State, Fresno, and of course Boise. And I'm not saying they'll beat Boise because you have chances are they're going to have to go to Boise to go beat them. But if they've already played at Boise once on Halloween night or Halloween day, whatever they're going to play, you've already seen what they could act like. So I think they're an interesting team. I kind of like the Bobcat Cats, and GJ Kinney is for a couple of years, not last year, but a couple of years, he's always had near and dear to my heart, and he's made me a lot of money. So I like this.
Great offenses. Great offense. It's, 36, 38 points a game, typically, just loves to sling it. Texas State, also the answer to a Coach Rick trivia question, which is the only FBS school in the country last year that had 2 1,000-yard receivers. Texas State. Yeah.
Yes.
Both those kids over 1,000. That's the only school in the country. So,
and both of those kids are back.
They're bad. They're both seniors. They're both back. Yeah. So
they're both back.
And you mentioned it. Brad Jackson is probably the best quarterback you've never heard of.
Yes.
I mean, who knows that name other than us?
I mean, it's rare that you get a guy that can run over almost 1,000 yards and throw for 3,300 passing yards.
Yeah.
It's insane. Those are insane numbers. That's a testament to how bad your defense is, though.
Yeah, well,
you have to go out there. You got to go out there and rip.
Yeah, and he's not running the option either. Like, this is an air raid offense.
Absolutely.
That he, running for 1,000 yards. Crazy.
Yeah. It's like, I'm just going to run. Oh, everybody's not open. I'm just going to run.
I'll take off. I got this.
Combined 38 touchdowns last year too. He ran for a ton of touchdowns. Wow. Unbelievable player, and I think he's if you can find a flyer on him to be the player, the offensive player of the year in the conference. I don't know where you can find that, but that's the guy. He's the guy. You can say everybody's going to take somebody from Boise or something like that. I was like, this Brad Jackson guy is way good, and I don't think they're used to. The Mountain West is not used to seeing these teams that are coming over from the Mountain West are not used to seeing air raid offenses like this. So it's going to be fun. I can't wait to watch them in a new conference. All right. Next team we're going to be talking about here. Let's take a little trip to the MAC. A little Maction action.
Hey.
At the Glass Bowl in Toledo, Ohio, a place that I have been at once. I don't think I'll ever go back there.
You got to come back, dude. You got to come back. It's an hour down the road from here, man.
Yep. It was a quaint countryside over there in Toledo, Ohio. And this team is obviously, when you talk about the MAC, you talk about Toledo, you talk about Miami, Ohio. You talk about, the top teams in the conference are standard, usually an eclectic mix of 4. And Toledo is usually one of the ones you talk about. So what do you like about this Toledo team this year, Coach?
A lot to like, and really, I like it because I've got a handful of kids that I've had a part in their careers somehow, some way. They were playing at Toledo, and if you didn't know, Jason Candle was at Toledo for a number of years. He was the head coach. He moved on to UConn, and a guy by the name of Mike Jacobs was hired to become the head coach. And if you don't know Mike Jacobs, this is really interesting, and this is where the tie to Drew Cronick comes back into play. But Mike Jacobs, the new head coach at Toledo, bounced around. He was a player. I think he played at Ohio State. Yeah, I think he played at Ohio State, and he was an offensive lineman. But bounced around as an assistant for a while. Became the head coach at Notre Dame College. Which, if you don't know, so there's a Notre Dame college that's in Ohio. It's a Division II school, actually a pretty good Division II school. He played good football there, but he was there for 4 years. His record in 4 years, 42-8, 2 trips to the Division II playoffs. After that, he got hired at a school in North Carolina. It's called Lenoir-Rhyne. It's a Division II school and a pretty good program there. He spent 4 years there. He went 32-9. The guy that he replaced at that school was also the guy that he replaced when he took his next job at Mercer. Mercer's pretty good FCS program. He was spent 2 years there. He went 20-6. 2 trips to the FCS playoffs. Mike Jacobs actually followed Drew Cronick at both of those schools. Drew Cronick left Mercer to go to Navy, which I thought was, just an interesting tie-in. But now he's taken over Toledo team. It's his first shot at FBS football, and he's got a solid team coming back. Quarterback will be a kid that you don't see this a lot. This kid's been in the program for a long time, and was the backup for each of the last 2 seasons. This kid named John Allen Richter. He'll be the starter at quarterback. I don't know. He's probably 28 years old by now. I don't think he's that old, but you got him. You've got a handful of offensive line starters back. Plus, you've got one of my guys who will start at center. Kid's name is Dylan Senda, 6'6", about 315. I had him years ago. Worked with him in the weight room, and he's a stud. He out of high school, he signed with Northwestern. The whole Pat Fitzgerald thing blew up, and he left. And Hugh Freeze wanted him at Auburn, so he went down there. Primarily a backup to an All-American center, but he's very good. He'll have a shot at the NFL someday. He'll start at center. On the offense, they'll also have 3 transfers at all 3 wide receiver slots, and I think the tight end will be a transfer as well. So they've got experience, but a lot of the experience is playing at other schools. On the defensive side, they actually don't return anybody, but Mike Jacobs actually brings 17, 18 dudes from Mercer, and Mercer again. Keep in mind, a lot of these FCS playoff teams, somebody asked me this question 2 years ago, like, what's the difference? You coach Division II level, you've been around, the FBS programs. Like, what's the difference? What's the difference between Division III and II and FCS and, et cetera? FCS schools, really the difference is depth. Like, kids that start at an FCS school, a lot of them could start at an FBS school if they were given the opportunity. FCS schools have a fewer number of scholarships, so they just don't, you go to an FBS school, you got, 8 offensive linemen that could start, whereas, you go to an FCS school, you got 5 and maybe a 6th guy if you're lucky that, can really start and handle it and, be good players at that level. But defensively, even though they don't have any starters returning, the best player that they will have is a kid named Andrew Zock. He's a defensive end. He played at Mercer. He could have went anywhere, and I mean anywhere, like Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, anywhere. And he decided that he was going to stick with his head coach, Mike Jacobs, and go to Toledo. He was the FCS Defensive Player of the Year, like, for all of FCS. I mean, this kid's legit. He had 12 sacks, 20 some tackles for loss. He's very good, and he'll fit right into this defense. They'll also have a kid who's one of our guys. He was a linebacker that played here at West Bloomfield High School. We trained him, and he went to Penn State, blew a knee, and I think he blew another knee, and ended up, 2-3 years at Penn State, decided to just come back and, see if he could play. He'll play for Toledo. His name's Kari Jackson, about 230 pounds, but he's a 4.5 40. I mean, he can cover. He's good. He's a legit player. So defensively, I think, despite not having any starters, I think they're going to repeat and do what they did last year. And if you don't remember, Toledo they were really, really good defensively. And Mike Jacobs is a guy who, he's going to build an offense around running the football and build a defense around stopping the run. Toledo, if you didn't know, hasn't had a losing season in 16 years. And they typically, they're going to do very well in the MAC, but they typically have some games against, usually they'll play a Big Ten team, in a non-conference game. So this year they're at Michigan State, so they typically have some tough non-conference games, but even so, they still are able to go at least 7-5, or even, 6-6. They, like I said, they haven't had a losing season for a long time. Their schedule is very favorable, I think. After Michigan State, they've got a gimme, Central Connecticut State, which is I think it's a D2 school, but it might be FCS by now. They're going to play Temple, which you know I like what's his name? His name's escaping me, the head coach that I know from Pennsylvania, but um, UMass is like a gimme. Sacramento State, it's their first year in the MAC. And Toledo's play. I'm sure everybody will be out to get them. Everybody wants to kind of pay them back for a loss last year, but this is a school that can win 8 games. I think, even though it's year one of Mike Jacobs, their win total is 7.5. The over is -140. And that's yeah. Can they win 8? Yeah. Is that number's probably pretty sharp? I think. I'd rather take them just to make the conference championship game, which I think they can do again, and that's priced at +160, and they're one of the favorites to win it all at +320. Trying to think who the favorite is. It might be them. I don't. Yeah.
Western Michigan, I think.
Is it Western? Yeah, that's what I was trying to think if
I
it was
think it was Western
Western.
Michigan. Yeah.
And I think they're right around the same. I know Toledo's +320. I think Western's somewhere in that +300 range. But yeah, I think Toledo has a solid season in year one with Jacobs.
Yeah, I mean, there's like 3 teams that are kind of in that mixed bag of being good: Toledo, Miami, Ohio, and Western Michigan. And you would think Ohio would be in that mix, but they're having some turnovers at coaches. And you
Yeah,
mentioned
yeah,
Toledo's got a first year head coach. Ohio's got a first year head coach.
yeah.
Western Michigan's got a guy in year 4 that's got a well built team, and Miami, Ohio's had the same coach for a
He's done
while.
well there. The other one's Central Michigan. So
Yeah, Central Michigan should be good too.
he was an he was an Army coach who came over, and they run the shit out of the ball. And they've used 2 or 3 quarterbacks. I actually have a QB going there this year, but they use 2 or 3 QBs, and they just run the ball. I mean, running backs, QB, everybody runs it. It's crazy. So they might be in the mix too.
Yeah, you mentioned Temple coach Casey Keeler coming
Casey
over.
Keeler, his name's
San
skating.
Jose
Yeah,
State. I
yeah.
was thinking of it too, and it just popped in my
I could
head.
picture his face, and I'm like, I couldn't think of his name. So
You're lucky you get him at home. Temple's one of those teams that's going to be. I like Casey Keeler. I think he did a
I
great
like
job
him
at
too.
Sam Houston, and he did fine on year one. And they're a team that you circle and be like, this team could be a problem in a lot of spots. But yeah, you mentioned this Toledo. You can't. I mean, Toledo has always done well in non-conference play. I believe they even had an upset. Didn't they beat like West Virginia last year?
They've beaten one or two FBS teams.
I'm thinking
in
of
the last,
Ohio. I think of Ohio.
8 years.
Ohio. So yeah, you'll see a few upsets there in the MAC. And the MAC, of course, dealing with a lot of changeovers. Northern Iowa, Northern Illinois out.
Yep.
Sacramento, and this eclectic team of these Midwest Ohio teams, a little bit of New York sprinkled in there. And lo and behold, you got Sacramento State joining the conference from Sacramento, California. How does that fit? I don't know.
And then you bring in UMass. I mean, UMass.
Yeah, UMass. I mean, you said it right.
I mean, it just but you know what? We can take UMass's team total under all season. So, like we did last year. God,
I think we did that.
I did it 4 or 5 weeks in a row. I mean, it's
or whoever they played the over on that team against UMass or something like that. It was some weird thing. But it was their team total unders were like 7.5 or something like that, and you're like praying they'd miss a field goal.
I remember. I think they played Wisconsin.
They had a good field goal kicker, right?
They did have a good kicker. Yeah, he was probably the best player in their team. But I think they played Wisconsin, and it was 7.5. And we're like, take it. If they score a touchdown, great. But they're not scoring anything else.
Right, exactly.
I think they did go under. But.
Those were the best Tuesdays in November, and I don't know how Sacramento State's going to work on those Tuesdays in November. I mean, that's absolutely brutal.
Yeah, that'll be a shock to the system for them.
Yeah, they'll put you right in the transfer portal, being in the MAC. I'm telling you.
Yep.
All right, we're going to talk about one last team before we talk about the best bets. I want to say thank you for watching this long. We've gone over an hour. Appreciate you sticking around. Hopefully, if you wanted to fast forward through some of this stuff, that's fine. But this is what we do. We talk about college football. We talk about the teams. We're giving you this information for the low price of $0.00. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you get comment section and drop a few comments as well, because we had to talk about a lot of teams today. Why? Because these are the teams we're going to be talking about week to week when we're doing the show, giving you the plays that pay the bills. That should be coming out on Thursdays or Fridays or something like that. It'll come out before Saturday, so look out for the shows on that one. All right, let's go into the final team that I want to talk about, and this is the team that's probably going to be my best bet for the show. I'll let you know about that one. It's going to be Liberty Bibberty, the Flames
Liberty Bibbity.
in Lynchfield, Virginia. I
Lynchburg.
believe Lynchburg.
Lynchburg.
Excuse me.
Lynchport.
On the south side of Virginia. This is a very interesting team. Jamie Chadwell had his worst season with the program. Fourth year with the team, he had 4-8 record. Absolutely brutal year for them. 13 returning starters, though. Had to rebuild through the transfer portal a little bit. They had a quarterback that had turnover problems last year, so they went with a new quarterback that they got from Wake Forest. That seems to look like he takes care of the ball. I was looking in the stats, and I think that was kind of what Jamie Chadwell wanted, because I think the turnovers really crushed them in a lot of the games. I'll get to their numbers here in a second, but they also have a 1,000-yard rusher from Army of all places that transferred in there. You rarely see Service Academy guy transfer over, and he's probably a year removed from playing football, but I think he's going to be a good addition to the running game. And you look at Liberty last year; they lost 4 straight conference games to end the year. 3 of those losses came in overtime.
Last 3 games.
And they were all losses by a possession or less. Well, that it makes sense for overtime. But like, you look at Liberty won the yardage battle in 8 out of their 12 games last season. They had a plus 67 net yard average versus conference opponents, but they had a -7 turnover ratio versus conference opponents, which made the difference. You gotta take care of the football. And that was the problem last year. And that's why I think Jamie Chadwell goes simple fix. I'll get a new quarterback. And I think this quarterback's going to really do some things. I can't think of his name right now. I didn't write it in my
Sean
notes.
Purdy.
There you go.
Sean Purdy.
That's going to be the guy. 8-4 in 2024, but won a lot of close games. So last year was the regression year for Liberty, because they won a lot of narrowly close games that they probably shouldn't have. But last year they got their comeuppance. They got the proverbial luck factor with a lot of their losses. Well, I mean, they should have had wins, but they had losses, 4-8. But they rebuilt to make a run here in Conference USA, and I think it's got validity to take over on 8.5 wins. I think this has 9 to 10 wins. You look at the schedule on that one, not the strongest of all strongest schedules, and their conference to win is plus 260. And I think they're the favorite to win the conference this year, even though they got Western Kentucky. The greatest thing about Conference USA is soft as baby shit. And I think that Liberty is, you look at the teams that were in it last year in the championship, it was Jacksonville State and it was Kennesaw State. And both teams are dealing with a lot of changes. Of course, you look at Jacksonville State, they lost their top running back. He transferred out. He went to West Virginia to go hang out with Rick Rod. And then then Kennesaw lost everybody. And I think the team to beat right now is the team that's got a lot of veterans that came back, at least the nucleus. New quarterback. Seems like they improved. I like Jimmy Chadwell too. He is a winner. Coastal Carolina guy, came to Liberty. And after Hugh Freeze left, I think this is a team to beat in the conference. You might as well take them to win the conference at plus 260 and the over on their wins. I think 8.5 you can get plus money. 7.5 is a little bit juice, but I said, they can win 9. So if they're going to win the conference, they got to win 9. So I think that's the play I like on that one. All right. Damn it, we did it. We broke down the best of the best. Now we got to go with best bets. Coach, what do you got for me?
I'll go back to the beginning. Potentially could be the best team out of the group of 6. Braxton Woodson is one of the keys. Like I said at the beginning, I think he's a better athlete than Blake Horvath. He should thrive in Drew Cronick's offense. And then defensively, if Navy can, at least do what they did last year and give themselves a chance, the offense can carry them. But I think Navy gets back to the American Athletic Conference Championship game. And last I checked, I could get that at plus 185.
Mine, I talked about at the end of the show, and I said this is the team to beat in Conference USA. It is going to be the Liberty Flames over on their wins. I think 8.5 wins, you can get plus money right now. I think this team can win the conference too, so you might as well take them to win the conference as well. If you think they're going to win 8.5 wins, they might as well win the damn conference. And I think they can do it. And I get back into the swing of things of being the best of the best in Conference USA. Liberty Flames, get it done after a 4-8 season, flip it and win the damn thing.
Amen.
All right, we broke down every single goddamn team that we could possibly think of in G6. No, there's so many teams. All right, if you have questions anything like that, get in the description below. Ask me, what about this team? What about that team? I'm sure between myself and Coach, we could give you our expertise and tell you what we think about those teams. But yes, we're going to be starting I guess the early week 1.
Week 1A.
Week we're trying to come up with a name for this one, but week 1A, we're going to be dropping later in the week, and you can go check that out. We'll be talking about some of the main games on that one, and we'll be right in the precipice of college football season the week after to give you the full slate of so many games, and it's going to be a fun time. And make sure you check out the VIPs that we're going to be dropping. If you don't know where to go to the description below. Join our Telegrams, Coach Rick and myself. You can follow us on Instagram, Coach Rick, and Why Lose Coach. What is it?
Why Lose Coach on Instagram, Why Lose Coach Rick on Telegram.
Oh, there you go. And then Why Lose _Gunz on Instagram. I do lives every single Saturday too, 9 a.m. I'll talk for an hour with you guys, and then I'll be hopping on shows every single Saturday. That's all I do. I talk college football all season long, every single Saturday, and all the way through the week. That's going to do it for me. And that's going to do it for the conference previews. We'll be back, talk about week 1A games. I'm Gunz Picks. That is Coach Rick. Let's cash some tickets. Let's dominate Dubbo. And as always, Coach.
Giddy up.
And let's keep dancing. Yeah, bye.